It's time. These kids have been working for a long time, it feels like, and I think they've worked extremely hard this summer. And so we don't get to do football with them in the summer and after spring. So it feels like it's been a real long time since we've truly been together and been with these guys. And so now it's a good time to get out there and just go to work. I know that they're in really good running shape. I know they're in really good lifting shape. And now we gotta get in good football shape. And so excited to get back out there with those guys.
This is one of the, broadly speaking, very experienced team. Has that changed anything even a little bit, your approach at this point in the year, having so many guys that have been around the program?
No, it hasn't. It's always about, the real good teams is always about depth. I don't think there's too many teams in the country that are feeling like really good, like we're super experienced, and because you just know you're not going to be playing with all those guys that on paper, look at this, it just changes. And so it's always about improving, building depth, those type of things, and we got a lot of work to do there. You talk about all this experience, but I think, the teams change from good teams to great teams or average teams to good teams with really how the old guys progress. We talk about that a lot. I mean, I'm just very adamant about that. So I'm anxious to get out there and see those guys that do have experience, that have played with us, where their game goes in this next month. I really am anxious to see this because, those kids have played a lot for us because they're good players and they've played at a high level and they've put a lot of hard work in, and the big question is, can they take that next step with what they've been doing?
We talked a lot in the past about how that's the hardest year to really take a big step as your junior year.
Yeah.
The guys who have done it, what does that look like? I mean, what sort of improvements do they typically make? Where you say that guy really did get better as a senior?
They just play at a higher level. It's a lot of little subtle things that add up to be, this guy's just playing at a different level. It's all the little nuances of the game at your position. You think of the guys that we've had here in the past that have done a really good job, that have moved on, those seniors that I think it's one of the reasons that we've, done some good things here in the past handful of years is because those seniors really have stepped up and their game has looked different. Now, if we can, it's always the sum of the parts that change things. So if a bunch of these guys can do that, this could be a little bit different. But I just don't want to underestimate how difficult or understate how difficult that process is. I mean, there's some guys that are really pretty good players, but we're serious about can we take the next step as individuals and also as a team.
Coach, the Carroll family released number 2. I'm sure you saw that. Aaron Forge taking that number.
Yep.
Tell us how that came about, that Aaron got the number, or was he the only one that raised his hand?
No, there would be like half our team wanting number 2. We're really excited about getting number 2 back into the mix. I think Chuck Carroll was all the research. What a fabulous player. What a great person, and what he did with his life and became an attorney and all those type of things. But it was interesting because number 2 is, we probably have 3 guys in every class that wear number 2 that want that number. Everybody seems to be, college kids seem to be in these single digits. I always tell them why, because if you're wearing a single digit in the NFL, you're not lasting long. So I don't know why you'd want a single, but they do. And 2 seems to be a really popular one. And so we're excited. We just think it can honor. I don't think a lot of people knew that number was even retired here. And so to get it back into it and draw attention to Chuck's family, I think is really a positive thing. We'll have a thing in our media, the programs about it, and hopefully you guys research it and do a little story on it. And to me, that's the way to honor that, not to put it away and nobody knows where that was. So in terms of Aaron, he's kind of the guy with seniority around here that's done a really good job. That's what he wore in high school and was really wanting to get his hands back on that number, but never thought it'd be an opportunity. Well, you guys are out of practice.
Chris, do you think the redshirt rule change will alter your philosophy of
It could, but we're not thinking that going into it. We think we're going to figure it out like we always do, who's ready to go, and play those guys, and kind of see how the season goes for the rest of the guys. And then probably when you get towards the end of your season, that's when it's really going to be hopefully like a little bit of an, I don't know what the right word is, an insurance marker, where you feel like you can get, you've lost guys and you need some guys out there, and you're not worried about, I hate that word, burning, or, playing a kid for such few games that's still not going to cost them, that they can still get that year back. And so we're excited about it. Our eyes are wide open. I think it's going to be a learning experience for everybody involved, but our approach is kind of the same going into it.
Does that still go the same way, Chris, with the quarterbacks, considering none of the guys behind Jake have a live staff?
Yeah, I think so, because you know how hard it is to even get a number 2 guy reps. And so now if you're getting other guys, so we'll just see how that goes. I know the quarterback thing has been brought up. We do want to get, one of these guys you really feel strongly that he's going to redshirt. Well, maybe they're not going to redshirt, depending on injuries, depending on how things progress. So again, I don't see that totally changing as well. I mean, I get where everybody's coming from on this quarterback thing, but I think our eyes will go wide open on it. If we play a game early on and we say, hey, let's put a guy in, we use one of those games and we may really need him down the road, then all of a sudden you're like, we might handcuff ourselves a little bit. So I think that's part we're still kind of looking at and figuring out.
What do you envision Savon Ahmed's role kind of like this year? Special teams offense.
I hope he gets the ball a lot. And I think we have smart coaches that are trying to figure out how to do that. I think he's a real explosive player that, needs to get the ball different ways. And I think we did a pretty solid job of that last year. But he's one of the guys that we gotta figure out how to get the ball to. So I think it can be multiple ways, like you said, special teams, certainly in the backfield, certainly at the receiver position, and he should be able to handle a little bit more this year just because he's had a good year with us.
Any rule changes that are significant enough for you as a staff to change things, tweak things in your preparation?
Well, I think you have 2 big rule changes that'll be big, one for the kids, one for the coaches. One is going to be the uniforms, that they have to have their knees covered, that they can't have their jersey hanging. That's going to be fortunately for us, we've kind of been on that for quite a long time, but I mean, they are adamant, like these jerseys need to be tucked in or cut off here. There's nothing hanging out. The knees need to be covered, no back pad. And those kids, they don't really like that. So that'll be something to them. I think the other one is the cutting downfield, past 5 yards. That's something that we got to pay attention to because, receivers cut downfield. And that's a big part of the game. The linemen cut downfield past 5 yards on screen games and certain types of run schemes. And so that's something that we've had to really look at, and how do we coach that and where are we going from here?
What does the tight end room kind of look like? I mean, especially Kaiser and Kate, obviously younger guys step forward through, obviously, is that you kind of break all that down without running for a while.
What do you mean, what does it look like? I don't get that question.
That you did not see a year ago in those guys especially.
Well, with Jacob Kaiser playing, I always think this is where you start to feel it's pain, it can be painful that first year, especially at that tight end position. I mean, that is such a physical position, and there's so much information there that can be hard. We had 2 of them with Hunter and both different unique skill sets, and we kind of used them differently. But he should be further along. And, Kate Otten, we think, had a really good offseason and a really good redshirt year, and we're anxious to get him in the mix. And so, I think like any good coaches, you're going to figure out what those guys' strengths are and try to play to them. Their skill set's certainly different than, Hunter's skill set, those 2 guys that I was just talking about. And so we'll figure out how to play to their strengths and what they do well and how much they can handle. Yeah.
What you learned in the spring and how it's going into the season?
That we still got work to do. And, that's a wide open competition. And we know that that's going to be an important part of the game. And we have a lot of games that come down to field goals, either winning and losing games. I mean, that's not our approach. We believe that, one play is not going to win the game, lose the game, but it can win the game. I mean, that's really how it is. There's so many plays that can turn the tide, but we know that those are critical things. And so those kids have been working hard. They really have. And I'm anxious to see those guys where they're at in their progression we get out there tomorrow.
Do you tweak or come up with new ways to try to kind of figure out, especially young kickers who really have been in a lot of pressure situations? Are there ways you can try to simulate that in practices?
We're going to give them a lot of work. And my thing always is, the kickers always want to back the ball up and hit these big, that's how they practice. And it's like, I don't know why you're doing that. We're not kicking a field goal from where we're back there. I just need to know where we're going to be like consistently really good. And if that's the ball on the 15-yard line, I'm fine with that. We just know to go for it. And so that's what we got to figure out. And, where that comfort spot is for whoever our kicker is. He did. He really did. I really like his mindset, how, we have this saying that every kick is the same. It doesn't matter if it's an extra point or 45, every kick should be the same. And the way he attacks the ball, it always looks the same. He misses one, he makes one. It doesn't necessarily change in terms of his aggressiveness to the ball. And he did some good things.
Kind of a big picture question. With the kind of win at all cost mentality that permeates college football, how do you reconcile that with the need to do things the right way?
I don't think it's win at all costs. We just had that meeting this morning with our staff, and all the time, it's not win at all costs. It's win with the values and beliefs that you're all about. That's how you do it. And I think that it's just important that we stay true to who we are and what we're trying to be. And I think that's why it's important to talk about those things and the philosophy of your program. Everybody has philosophy. Everybody talks about culture. I mean, it's just like to ad nauseum. It's like, do we really have to talk? But that is when I do think the things that you truly want to be about, these inspiration, some of it's inspiration, and it's hard. We're not perfect. And so it's hard to, pressure and you get blown off course. But that's why I always say, like, why you have like a philosophy of who you are and how you want to do things. So when things get really good, you don't get off track. And things get hard and the pressure builds, you don't get off track. We just got to believe in who we are and what we're trying to do. But I don't think it's not a win at all costs. I think that's the wrong way to think about it. And I think if that's what it is, that's a lot of the problem. I think every day something comes across my desk that I'll be challenged integrity-wise. It's not about making one good decision and move on. And it's like an everyday thing when you're in a big organization or a big place. And it's a lot of times it's subtle stuff. Like sometimes it's like it starts here. It all starts small. We tell our players that all the time. It all starts small. It's like you don't end up all of a sudden, like that doesn't happen like that. And so you got to pay attention to the small things to make sure that you're, on track of who you want to be and how you want to conduct business.
You've been with a lot of coaches on your staff for a long time, and yet you referenced the meeting this morning. Does something feel like you need to reiterate on a constant basis?
Like I tell you guys, we take nothing for granted here. That's our job as coaches. That's my job as the head coach. I don't care how long it is. It's always good. And I tell those guys, I'm not talking and preaching to them. I'm first and foremost talking to myself. Like all these great things that we try to aspire to be about and how to, do things and be a leader and all these things. It's stuff that I study and I'm passionate about it and I try to pass that on, but I'm always talking about myself first and foremost.
How do you pronounce the name of the kid from Delaware State? Batu?
Yes. Go ahead.
Tua?
Good. I like it.
Close?
Yeah, you're in it.
What do you know? I mean, as far as him and Bryce?
Well, it's hard for me to know because, oh, they're here. That makes my stomach queasy. They made me throw up back in the day. That's a different story. In the in the plane.
Can we hear that story?
You can. Get into your question. I don't know. We don't do football. You know, we're not around football, and when those kids are throwing the ball around. So I don't know a bunch about the guys football-wise, like what their skill set's going to be when we put them with our guys. Another couple guys I'm interested in. I did ride with the Blue Angels a handful of years back, and wow. I don't even know how to explain this. I mean, it was like the most painful half hour of my life. I mean, it was like I'm up in the middle of this going, please stop this ride. I mean, this is not fun. And what it does gives you so much respect for those guys up there. Like when they would really be in combat and maneuvering. And I mean, I don't know how the guy was even flying the plane because I couldn't even see. I was almost passing out half the time and had tears in my eyes the rest of the time, so I couldn't see. But it was like, I mean, I got off that plane and just basically kissed the ground. It was like I made it. And I've had that question a lot, and I don't think I could do it again.
Some claims you lasted 15 minutes before you puked.
Well, I lasted a little bit longer, but we were coming into land, and they tell you not to eat. And so, I mean, it was more dry heaving than really throwing up. But the last thing the mechanic said to me as he straps me in, and I don't know what I was thinking because I'm kind of claustrophobic too. And so he straps me in there so tight, and I'm like, I need to get out of this plane. The pilot wasn't in yet. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, the pilot's not here. He's like, he'll be here. I'm like, no, I need to get out. Right then, I probably should have just called it off. But
Where were you?
this was in Idaho. I think it was Twin Falls. And all I know is we're going down the runway, and he said, okay, we're going to go down here, and we're going to go really fast. And I'm going to say, are you ready to fly? And you say yes. Then I'm going to pull back on this joystick, and it's going to be like nothing you've ever felt. And so we take off, and we're going fast, and that was really awesome. It's like, you know, an airplane that we normally run on, but about 10 times as fast, and you're right off the ground. And I'm thinking, this is pretty great. And he's like, are you ready to fly? And I'm like, I guess. And it was like, boom, shoosh. And I was like, oh, my stars. And it only got worse from there. I mean, it wasn't even like, I don't know, it was out of control. I mean, I couldn't lift my hands up, and then I didn't know where I was. And he's like, you know, open your eyes and look up. And I was like upside down, and I could see the earth. And then all of a sudden the pressure was coming off. I mean, it was the most different feeling I'd ever had. And so finally I thought I survived and not passing out, and we come over the airport to land, and he's kind of doing a side swipe turn like this, and it wasn't a whole bunch of G's. Had been worse, but I was so tired by that time. Exactly how they describe it to you, like your vision narrows, everything goes gray, and it's almost like you're looking through a straw, and you got to start pushing back in this maneuver they teach you to get your breath. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I made all this, I'm going to pass out before I get back. And so I'm breathing a certain way, and my vision starts to clear. And you guys should try it sometime. I'm just saying. I'm good, though.
What's the process that you guys go through?
Yeah.
Is it all on their end to initiate stuff, or how do you do that?
No, it's a little back and forth. We have a lot of kids that want to walk on here, but we really want to make sure they feel like that they can contribute at this level and play, and that they'll bring value to them and to the program as well. So it's a little bit back and forth. And then sometimes we'll look at our numbers, and we have balance in numbers that we'd like to have. And so if our numbers are a little light, we'll maybe try to actively go out and seek some guys. There's always certain positions that, are easier to come by, and some other positions, the lines that are harder to come by, that you're always keeping your eyes open for that. But, it's a combination. Can like we recruit guys. It's not just about football. Can they do the school here? Can they get into school? All those type of things. But it's an important part. And the thing that we've always felt great about, I mean, I can't tell you how many, over the years, how many walk-ons have earned scholarships. How many, we've had walk-ons have gone to the NFL, you know. And so anybody that joins this the one thing I always feel good about is I don't feel like anyone, I don't even like talking about walk-ons because I don't think that's right. It's like they're dogs now. And the beauty of it, most of our guys don't even know who was a walk-on and who's on scholarship. We've had that before. It's like, this guy's not on scholarship when they find out. And I think that's how it should be in terms of how the coaches treat him and the players treat him in the locker room.
And the scholarship guys for this 2018 class, is everyone enrolled, everyone expected for camp?
For the most part, Ale Cajo will not be here tomorrow. He's got some family things that he's taking care of. And we'll just kind of take it day by day from there. But other than that, everybody's expected to be here.
Chris, I know you can't address the Urban Meyer situation directly, but can you talk a little bit about standards and practices that you have for assistant coaches and staff, especially regarding things that are beyond standard behavior clauses in a contract? What kinds of things do you emphasize with assistant coaches and other?
I mean, you know, we talk so much to our players, again, about, you know, built for life and, you know, just how to conduct business, like the way we think it should be. And again, I go back, it always starts with us as coaches. And so we have a lot of these conversations. I mean, I don't think it's like, you know, I say, we had a conversation yesterday and today about this stuff, but we're going to have conversations about this all the time when it's appropriate, like when it, you know, what's going on in the real and how it fits with us and applies to us. And I think Jen Cohen does a nice job for the whole athletic department. We have some different training around here, like what the protocol is when something happens, you hear something, you see something, which is different than it was 5 years ago, or maybe even 2 years. Like, we're supposed to do that? Okay. And so I think she's all over it. We try to pay attention as much as we can to, I mean, not as much as we can. We just try to do the right thing. I mean, and I think it comes down to that. And there's still going to be mistakes made. I mean, we get that. We're humans, and there's a lot of dynamics and all those things. And I'm not trying to, you know, make ourselves different or better than we're not. But I think it's something that you talk about and you pay attention and you try to live the life that you want the kids to live, and it all works together.
Getting rid of the two-a-days during camp, does that put more emphasis into getting the most out of each session?
I never really liked two-a-day practices. I think there's a point of diminishing return where you're not making yourself better. And so a couple years ago, we went to kind of an hour to an hour and a half, 20-minute, no padded, you know, teaching practice, but not very obviously physical. We didn't have helmets on or anything. And we counted that as a two-a-day practice. And it was awesome. It was game-changing. It was like we finally felt like we cracked the code how to do this correctly. And then the NCAA takes it away from us, which I think was the wrong thing to do. Because our kids were more on top of the material that we were presenting to them. They were as fresh as we ever were. We were doing the right thing. But we can't do that now. So yes, every rep out there really, really matters. Not because we can't have, you know, 2 physical practices in the same day, but because of really this other time that was taken away from us that we thought was awesome. And the kids liked it. We were getting a lot of productivity done. And it was maybe only about, I don't know, 4 or 5 of them during the course of the month where they fit, but they were really good for us, and we can't do those. Yeah. I think the wideouts I think they've had a pretty good spring from all indications. They've lifted weights and ran very well. Jake would think that the whole crew, Jake Browning, was really pleased with how that whole crew has been working, and what's going on with the receivers and quarterbacks has been good. So I'm optimistic and I'm excited to see these guys go, that group. Chico's good. I mean, we have a handful of guys that, and it's no different every year, that we'll pay close attention to, and it's not like business as usual. We especially the guys, the older guys that have been taking a lot of reps. I mean, you got to pay attention to guys and make sure that you're monitoring how much they're going, and that really goes for our team. Like we've talked about this earlier at the Pac-12 meetings, is that there's a build-up phase, really even for your team. It used to be just go as hard as you can right from the start, and some of the information we're getting, that's maybe not the best way. Whether it's an injured guy, whether it's your team. Like, we haven't played football for a long time, and that's just different than lifting and running. So there's a build-up phase. That's really hard for us as coaches to do, to pull this thing back when we're getting started. And it's hard for our guys won't pull back. They're ready to go. So as coaches, we need to cut time down, cut reps down to build this thing throughout the month of August.
Is there anyone besides Hunter Bryant who they're expecting to react?
No, because our injury policy. We're not going to say anything unless somebody's out for a long, long period of time or for the season, and so nobody fits that category.
With Jimmy taking over, is there anything during fall camp that you need to replicate just in terms of the fact that he hasn't done it before? So he's up to speed.
Not really, because I think every practice we have periods where it's not scripted, where the coordinators just need to call football. We have a lot of periods that are, situational, and then we have so he will get, work every day himself on how to, call the game that he feels is appropriate.
Just a couple more guys, sorry, Joe. Just a couple more, he's got to get to 12 o'clock.
With such a high-quality opponent out of the gate, do you guys change your approach to fall camp, or do you just stick to what you guys do?
Yeah, we kind of always stick to what we do. I mean, everybody knows the quality of opponent we're opening with, and but it's always about us first and foremost before we can ever even really start paying attention to our opponent. We got to get ourselves right. We got to get our schemes, and then worry about who we're playing in a couple weeks. So that really never changes for us in terms of how we go about it.
For the Tevs moving inside, who are going to be the main players in the battle for the outside spot that he was set up?
Yeah. I mean, we have some young guys that we really like. I mean, we have Miles Rice and Ariel Nagata and, Benning and Bowman and Joe Tryon, who redshirted, that's done some good things. And, that's a decent crew right there that we'll mix and match and see. We wouldn't have done that had we not felt like that's better overall I think it's a win-win, because I think Tevis is going to be maybe more. We can always kick him back out there. He's one of the smartest guys we have, so we know we can kick him back out there. So that's nice to have that insurance marker there. But I think he probably helps our overall defense inside, and I think it helps him, maybe his skill set even more. And so I'm excited to see how this one progresses.
You cracked a little smile there talking about Joe Tryon.
Yeah.
What do you see from him?
Well, not much. So he's a good-looking guy when he walks by, and he works hard in the weight room. So that always gives me a smile on my face. He did a good job. He did a great job redshirting, and he did a nice job in spring ball. And he's a big, good-looking guy that can move. He's athletic. And so we're excited about his future and what he could possibly bring to the table. But he's a young guy. He hasn't played a snap of college football. But he's a guy that we're anxious to see what he can do. Trey's doing well. I mean, he's making progress, and he's another one of those guys. Obviously, we know that we'll be smart with and figure out how to build him back into this.
What's that next step that you're looking for?
With all those guys, it's the consistency at an elite level. That's what we're looking for. I mean, Jake plays really good football and has made some spectacular plays here in his career. And whether we're talking about Myles Gaskin or, JoJo McIntosh or whoever, it's like, okay, what are we talking about here? you know, in terms of them taking the next step. It's, you know, them doing their job and not doing someone else's job. And a lot of times that looks just like simple football. Yep, it is. But doing that at a consistent level, and then all the wisdom that they have over the years of playing for us, that they can bring that to the table with the, you know, athletic skills that they have, and do that play after play after play. That's what we're talking about. And so that's what we're looking for in Jake, to play the most difficult position in all of sports at a really high elite level, play after play after play.